Hello and welcome to this HEM Education Marketing Solutions webinar on Decoding Gen Z, Tailoring Education Marketing for the Next Wave. If you're not familiar with HEM, we're a digital marketing agency that serves exclusively the education sector. Schools of all types, all sizes, private and public. So K to 12, career college, college and university, business school, medical school, law school, language schools. We serve schools around the world and in multiple languages. I'm one of your presenters today. I'm the regional manager over North America sales for HEM, and I'm joined by Valentin Wimel, our inbound marketing manager at HEM. Good morning and hello, Val.
Good morning. Hi, everybody.
So morning for us, afternoon for you. We're glad you set some time aside to join us. And here's what we're going to walk through today. We're going to, of course, be just basically kind of defining and understanding Gen Z, and then beginning to incorporate persona building as we look to target Gen Z with digital marketing. And then we're going to look at marketing strategies, engagement tactics, and ultimately metrics and analytics to kind of measure how we're doing with all that. And then we'll review key takeaways. One thing I want to reiterate here is you will receive a recording of this webinar, and we'll say this again later, but you'll receive a recording of this webinar as well as the deck, the slide deck that we're walking through, maybe as soon as tomorrow, but certainly by early next week in your email. So you don't need to scribble down notes if you don't want to. You'll receive all this again in your email. So let's get started in terms of understanding Gen Z, that in-depth analysis. And we're just going to begin by defining them, right? So these are folks who are born between 1997 and 2012, which means they're in the age range of 12 to 27 years old. They're known for their tech savviness, their value-driven decisions, and distinctive educational choices. So they're very very choosy, and very particular about their educational choice. So we want to, as we do in our HEM webinars, we often will poll you, and we're going to poll this audience 3 times. This first one, really just, we want to know from you, and your takeaway of knowing Gen Z, what do you believe is the most influential factor in Gen Z's decision-making process for their education and career choices? Do you think it's digital and social media influence, desire for financial security and job stability, impact of global issues and sustainability? Is it diversity and inclusivity in the environment, or all of the above? This is that we ask you to poll, and it's anonymous, so just please tell us what you think. If there's one specific, or do you think it's all of the above? So we'll give you a moment to poll, to cast your vote, and thank you for your engagement. Okay, here come some results. Well, you're right. Because it is all of the above. They're all great values and points to take, but it's important to understand that covers the gamut. Okay, so thank you very much for voting there. And this next slide really just kind of covers each of those points, right? Part of what we want to understand, and it's a given, I understand that, but when you really begin to think about it, this is your first group of digital natives. That they're the only ones who really understood this is how we roll, right? With a phone in our hands or a tablet close, a laptop on your lap, and you're doing many things at once. So that's a given. It's when we get into elements like diversity and inclusivity, mental health awareness, they're very mindful of how they live and how they make their choices. And it's awesome in that degree, right? They make decisions in a very pragmatic way. They look for real solutions to real problems. And they approach financial tranquility, if you will, or really you could say financial planning in a mindful way as well. They really take that in looking for real solutions to real issues. And they seek meaningful work. They want to do work, and in this case, meaningful school, right? So if they're going to go to school, they're going to want it to work with them and for them and be a part of their life in a way that's meaningful. And they're brand and value conscious. That can be said for any generation, and it's true here as well. So what this means, when it comes to their digital expectations and value-driven choices, as digital natives, they have an expectation that you at your school, you're technologically on it, you're adept, you have the tools and the tricks and the ways to chat and connect, active and engaging. So that's an expectation on their part. This requires from you a strong lean toward your online presence as a school. And we're going to talk more in depth about that. When it comes to their changing educational preferences, they favor interactive and tech-enhanced engagement. So again, their online experience is important to them, whether it's in the recruiting part, before they've even become a student, their nurturing of their, answering their questions as they consider your school versus others, and also in their learning experience as well. And when it comes to value-driven decisions, they're looking for educational institutions that align with their values, high values of diversity, inclusivity, sustainability, and others. That's going to attract them if that's a part of the culture of your school. So it's important to include that in your messaging, which we'll kind of unveil a little more as we go here. The next element that we want to talk about is getting a little more specific on Gen Z's impact on educational marketing. It really means, what does it mean to have a strong online presence and to utilize digital marketing strategies effectively? Well, when it comes to your website, it means having content that's relevant, that answers their questions, that takes the point of view of a prospective student. So often, a lot of times schools talk about me. This is our program. This is what we do. We've won awards. We're the best. You want to brag about your school. We think that's important that you state all of that, but you want to remember to state it in a way that really pertains to their needs. And it's really going to help you resonate with Gen Z in terms of, them understanding who you are and why you're relevant for them and a great place for them to study. It also means just technically on your website, have a chat bot, have ways that they can fill out forms and connect with you quickly. You want to make engagement technologically easier. When it comes to communication preferences, this is where we're looking at not just those ways on your website. Also, they're looking at social media and other channels. They're looking at multiple touch points. They're going to find you in a few different ways at a few different times. So don't just assume your website is the one place. They may bump around and begin their search on social media. So you need to make sure that your presence is just as up to date there, and that you're answering to your comments or any questions that come across in that chat back and forth, and that engagement. And they're likely to engage with authentic and user-generated content. So in your social channels especially, you don't necessarily want to push too much your message to them from you, the administration. Tell the story from the student's point of view, from the teacher's point of view, the alumni's point of view. And make sure that content is conversational and transparent. I mean, as soon as you begin to peel away the layers of administration, that really helps you to achieve transparency in that regard. And that is why this is true. These three social channels are, first of all, very visually forward, and two of the three are video only, right? So even Instagram is turning so much more video forward. So it's no surprise that more than 80% of Gen Zers are on YouTube, 75% are Instagram, and 68, kind of depending on where you are in the world, on TikTok, could be higher there. So it's clear in terms of being transparent. Nothing's more transparent than a real message in real time, spoken right to the camera, right? And especially if that can be your existing students or alums or teachers, that's a great way to express who you are and basically be your real self. So that's why, these are so important to connecting with Gen Z. And I love this graphic because it kind of communicates just how much we need to work as folks at schools and in our behalf, a digital marketing agency. There are a lot of things to consider as we're doing all this, right? Beginning with top left, mobile first. We see in so many of the data points from the schools we serve that 60, 70, sometimes 80% of their traffic, either organic or paid, can be through mobile devices first. So make sure that your website is mobile enhanced. You want to make sure you're using social media for search. So consider that a majority of folks in Gen Z go to social media to do their searches, not Google necessarily. So you want to be ready for that. You want to provide content that's very how-to, very relevant, that helps them to make decisions. They have questions about how to make decisions sometimes, as we all do. So help them there. And keep in mind, again, video is a really helpful tool to capture someone's attention in a short attention span. Keep those videos quick, between 10 to 30 seconds. That first 10 seconds is critical. 30 seconds is a good amount. If you really need to go long form, we're talking 90 seconds. So keep it quick. That helps you again to achieve that authenticity and trustworthiness. Also consider voice search in terms of the keywords that you're utilizing in your content on social and in your website, that it's going to match with voice search and you need to be visible there. And you need that visual content presence, which we've mentioned. I like this graphic to kind of conclude this overall kind of setting the tone, because we've talked about the digital saturation, the value alignment, the authenticity and trust. The one thing that's really hard to get a handle on is the rapidly evolving trends. They're different on each of those channels: Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, even website elements. And it just means paying attention. And a good way, we think, to keep your attention and understanding, what's new, what's hot, what are the ways you're finding info. Ask your students, poll your current students, or talk to those who are inquiring, your prospective students. It's a great way to stay up on those rapidly evolving trends because they can slip through your fingers. And now I think we're going to shift to Val with incorporating that persona building and targeting Gen Z.
All right, thank you, Scott. So when it comes to define a persona, a Gen Z persona, we have identified different steps. And the first one is to make sure that you have information about the key demographics, the motivation, and the concern. Uh, the more you have information on what they are looking for when it comes to find a program or a school, and what concern they have when it comes to, for example, the financial options, or it could be also the wellness programs that you may have also. The more you get information about that, the more you'll be able to shape your content and messaging strategies to ensure that it resonates with the specific needs of your audience. So we have an example here from a language school. We have identified two different personas, so you can have, of course, more than one. And here we have an example. So the multilingual international students, aged between 16 to 19 years old, enrolling in academic immersion programs for winter in order to earn credits for their educational program back home. And there is also the international summer students, aged between 15 to 17 years old, enrolling in a summer language and culture program, who wants to immerse themselves in Canadian culture and improve their grasp of the English language. So it's an example here, and persona can apply to any school. And we can see here on the next slide more details about what could be the background information and the motivations. So we have the age, the location, the social ranking, the current education, the level of the, the level of language spoken. There's also we see the motivation with different uh, ideas of what could motivate the student. And again, the more you'll have information, the more you'll be able to have uh, content that answer those motivation and concern. So the second step is to identify the preferences, behaviors, and value. If you have an idea of which digital platform your audience spend most on their time on and for what reason, you will be able to create your content and spend more time on those dedicated digital platforms. So as Scott mentioned earlier, uh, platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube are essential if you want to reach out Gen Z. Uh, if you have an idea also of what format your audience prefer to consume educational content, so we've mentioned and we see often with, for example, our clients that when it comes to target Gen Z, videos are essential to retain attention, but also blogs with a very good and strong SEO optimization and very unique blog posts and keywords. You can have a potential to reach out your audience on a different search engine. If you have also an idea of what are the main consideration when choosing uh, an educational institution. So as Scott mentioned, Gen Z tend to have pay attention to yes, what's so special about the school, about the programs, but also what are the value of the school, and it's something to consider. And there's also how do they prefer to engage with school or education content online. It's something also important to determine. If you have an idea if they prefer to reach out your school through social media, or it could be with a fill out a form on the website, or it could be with a chatbot. There are different options to analyze. And also, what are their career inspirations and how do they plan to achieve them? Step 3, apply persona insight. Once you have a clear idea of who is your persona, you can craft customized messaging that speaks to your Gen Z persona to ensure all your marketing communications are relevant and engaging to each identified persona segment. You can highlight your institution commitment to value important to Gen Z, such as diversity and sustainability through storytelling. There's also, you can use personas to tailor this narrative, making them more impactful and aligned with the interests and values of your audience segments. Marketing strategy for Gen Z. So we're going to share with you some important element to consider. But we have here a second poll. Do you have a specific marketing strategy directed at Gen Z? Yes.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, please vote. It's anonymous. So be honest. Do you have some ideas in mind already and in action? This will be interesting to see. It also depends on how much they're a part of your target audience. For a graduate program, they're they're kind of in the part of that aspect, but when it comes to most other schools, they're right square in your target. So do you think specifically, strategically about how you're going to do that? Yeah, that's interesting, eh? most people say no, and that's fair. That's totally fair. I guess that's why they're here, right, Valentine? I mean, and
Mhm.
as a content creator, you need to kind of think specifically toward this, don't you?
Absolutely, yes. And yeah, it takes a specific approach, and we'll see with the examples on the next slide. Um, so just gonna share here. So leverage social media. As Scott mentioned earlier, Gen Z tend to search for information on social media first rather than search engines like my generation, for example, do. So that's why you have to really spend time on creating unique content about your school, show what's so special about your school, and focus on platforms popular with Gen Z such as TikTok and Instagram. For our clients, we know some schools are not very open to use TikTok, and it's understandable. But at the end of the day, it's a personal decision. But a lot of schools are on TikTok, and if you're not on TikTok, you might lose an opportunity to reach out to an audience that is not necessarily on Instagram. So it's two essential platforms to consider. Both of them offer a great feature to share content directly in the app. Either it's for creating videos, but also adding music and emojis and hashtags. Uh, when it comes to content style, uh, what we see also is that Gen Z tend to be interested more in seeing the reality. At some point, 10 years ago, it was very trendy to use very nice, perfect iStock images and videos that are very perfect, but that actually didn't really look like the reality. So the more you create authentic, engaging, and visually appealing content, the more you reach out Gen Z. They want to see the real, unfiltered insight over polished corporate messages. Another option to consider is student ambassador collaborations. We see that school a lot of school have now on their website a page dedicated to student ambassador. I think it's a win-win deal for the student, especially if the student want to in the future have a career in marketing or communication. Being a student ambassador is a great uh, element to include in a CV, but for the school, it's the perfect occasion to show the reality of your school. And also, what we see is that Gen Z tend to, when it comes to take a decision, tend to trust Gen Z first. So they will like to have the opinion of another Gen Z and see what they think about a specific school or program. So that's why student ambassador collaboration is important to consider. Don't forget about video and short form video. So as I mentioned, Gen Z consume videos and short form video. The reason why is because we see that there's a lot of competition on social media first, but also when it comes to get attention, the attention of Gen Z is shorter than other generation. So invest in crafting short, engaging video content that can range from informational videos to virtual tours of your institutions. So you have the TikTok and Reels options, uh, and you can create short, impactful messages that align with your current trends and challenges. Uh, Foster community and engagement. If you have also the opportunity to have online communities and create and nurture online forums or groups where prospective and current students can interact, it's good to have this also to monitor what your audience say about your school, and it's an opportunity for you to see where you can improve things. Real-time interaction. Uh, as we mentioned, Gen Z would like to have as a first contact. Usually it's by communication by email or direct messages on social. But if you have a chatbot on your website and that can provide immediate assistance, it's a good opportunity to get more interaction with Gen Z. Engage through experiential marketing, uh, virtual events, host webinar, virtual open days, and online Q&A sessions that allows your prospective student to experience your institution environment and culture. And you can use social media platform to provide Gen Z an understanding of what it means to be part of a community. Gen Z, they are looking, yes, for the right school, the good program, but they also like to be part of a community, and they want to see how is the students, how they interact, and that's why it's important. Develop a strong content marketing strategy. Educational content provide valuable content that helps Gen Z in their decision-making process. It can be tips for choosing the right course or career guidance. It could be also sharing short videos to have an overview of the different course you offer. Uh, and there is also blogging and SEO. As I mentioned previously, maintain an active blog with SEO optimized content will help you attract organic traffic and will help your website to be visible easily on Google. Implement user-generated content. So Gen Z spend a lot of time on social. They like to consume content, but they're not afraid to share content. So they share a lot of photos, a lot of videos, and if as a school you can motivate your current student to share their experience online, I think it's the best type of advertising you can have. You have the reality feature their content on your platform to showcase authentic life, student life. When we see happy students, when we see it's very it's great to play on the I would say emotional part side of the marketing, and it motivates your potential students to take actions. There's also hashtag campaigns that you can create and promote hashtags for events or specific campaigns to encourage participation and content creation. Adapt to changing trends and feedback. Stay updated. Keep abreast of the latest trend and interests of Gen Z. To do it, you can, of course, do surveys, but you can also take a look at your competitors and what they are doing online. But you can also take a look at big names, I would say, like very well-known university that are very active on social, and see how they share content. And sometimes you'll see, if you compare different schools, you'll see that they play on different trends when it comes sometimes to music, but also visual content. Regularly gather feedback through survey or social listening to understand their evolving needs and refine your strategy accordingly. Here we have on this slide some examples. So we have the POV trend on TikTok, the Wes Anderson trend, and the ASMR trend.
So as we look at Gen Z engagement tactics, I want to take a moment to also just remind you, you can ask questions. I know your mics are muted. It helps us to just kind of get through the content, but we'll take your questions in the Q&A prompt in the bottom menu of the Zoom link. So look at the bottom there where it's Q&A. Someone's already asked a question. Thank you for that. we'll answer those questions live as we conclude here. So feel free to just type some questions in as we're talking here. So looking at engagement tactics, specifically, there are some quick ways you can just take this on with quizzes, with polls, basically anything that they can engage in and have a say, right? So you want to ask them what they think, and that'll be useful information. So definitely step in, whether it comes to asking them about their career choices, their educational interests, etc. So that's one way to do it. Another is to just add gamification to things that typically aren't very, fun and interactive like that. So, for example, a virtual campus scavenger hunt where participants can gather information about different departments and courses and turn it in. So you can make just a regular old campus tour or a tour of many programs to be a little more fun, a little more engaging. So you kind of get them into it. So these are just a couple of ideas when it comes to interactive content. And then the other aspect to consider, because everything we've talked about up till now is organic, essentially. These are posts that you are creating, or you're, like Val had said, your user-generated content, maybe your students are creating, which is awesome. So that's very organic. It's just coming straight from the source. Another great way to engage and reach Gen Z is to advertise, right? So put some money behind some of your messaging, and use platforms that are heavily frequented by these audiences. So keep in mind, when folks post organically, it goes out to those, really only those who follow them. So it's important that the algorithm matches, right? That someone sees their content for a reason. Advertising lets you expand beyond that, right? It allows you to create your own audiences and to basically define who you want to reach out to in addition to those who are following you. So it really expands the people you can put your message in front of. You want it to be visually appealing, as we've said before, short, compelling videos. So your YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram may be the great places for your ads. Also consider to implement retargeting strategies. For example, you can study people who have come to your website, maybe come to your application or your program page, but haven't acted. They haven't started anything. They haven't filled out a form. You can use their Google ID to retarget them in other ways, in other ad campaigns. So that's another great way to kind of basically say, oh, you were interested once. Let's put our message in front of you again and see if you're still interested to know. And then when it comes to the approaches of inbound marketing, and we defined inbound marketing really across everything Val and I have been talking about so far. Inbound is the tactic of putting messages out there on your website, in social media, in ads, for example, but primarily organically through social, with links that allow people to click on the link and come inbound to your website to read more. That's the intent of inbound. And that's why it's really based in many ways in content marketing, with blogs or web articles that are relevant and valuable to Gen Z. Keep in mind that blogs are first and foremost an SEO vehicle. They're a search engine optimization vehicle. As Val said, they're rich in keywords, in the keywords that people are using to search for schools like yours. And it's a great way to add new keyword articles every month, every week. That really gets the attention of Google, so you can be ranking better in the search results. Secondarily, blogs are going to speak to their questions, that your Gen Z questions, and it's going to speak to their interests, to what values them, etc. So you're able to communicate as well as attract SEO attention. You want to optimize your content for those search engines for sure. I find another interesting aspect of this, personally interesting, is that 65 to 70% of Gen Zers prefer email. The way we understand this to be is, Gen Z is very peculiar about who they're going to share their contact information with. So if they're very selective in that, it means that they do truly want to hear from you if they're going to share their first name, last name, and their email address, for example. So that means they're using email. And when you send them an email, it's more likely going to be read and actually maybe have some influence there. So make it personalized, make it informative. Don't just make it a cookie cutter messaging aspect. You want to include information about courses, upcoming webinars, timely information. What's coming up next week, next month? Are there deadlines they need to know about? Stuff like that. Very useful. And, one of the first questions that was typed in was about podcasts. Podcasts are very useful, and it's because you can really get a little more personal in communicating about career advice, student experiences, discussions on current educational trends. So yeah, they can be really useful. You want to then, though, make sure that it's not just the recording that goes out, but you also want to find some way to put that into words. It couldn't be just a summary of the points you make, because the words are going to really connect with the SEO aspect of that value. So the podcast is going to reach the Gen Z's ears, and the summary, the written summary, is going to catch Google's attention for SEO. So that's a great way to utilize podcasts. And I think we're going to wrap it up now with measuring the metrics.
Yes, metric analytics. So when it comes to measure the result, you want to have a look at the website analytics. If you have an idea of the page views and unique visitor, measure the volume. It helps measure the volume of interest of your content. The bounce rate indicates if the content meets Gen Z expectation. And also time on site gives an idea of how engaging the content is. There's also a social media engagement to look for. Likes, share, and comments, of course, can judge the content popularity and interactions levels. Follower growth tracks the expanding reach of your institutions, and engagement rate can help measures the level of active interaction compared to the number of followers. Content performance. There is also the options to take a look at the videos views and watch times. Platforms like YouTube, Instagram, and also TikTok indicate content relevance and engagement. And there's also the click-through rate that helps measure effectiveness of call to actions in emails, for example, ads and social media posts. Feedback and interaction. Here, again, I think there's a good opportunity to get information in direct messages and comment. It could be the messages you receive by email, on social media, but also the reviews that you may have on Google My Business. It can help you redefine your digital content strategy, but it helps you measure effectiveness of call to actions, emails, ads, and social posts. And also survey responses. Platform, for example, like YouTube, indicating content relevance and engagement.
So as we go into our key takeaways, I want to remind you, go ahead and type in your questions. We're about to answer your questions. So feel free to hop into the Q&A portion of the Zoom meeting. The takeaways really are pretty straightforward. You're talking a digitally driven audience. They prefer social media and video content over traditional search engines. They expect current and trendy approaches from you, the educational institution, and they value authenticity, transparency, and inclusivity in that content, whether it's social media content that you post, website content, blog content, podcast content. You want to focus on mastering various social media channels, and the focus there is on various. You want to be visible and active in multiple channels because they use multiple touch points, not just one single source to learn about you. They kind of want to learn about all of you. Representation in visual content and user-generated content like testimonials, super useful here and is going to resonate well with Gen Z. And you want to incorporate SEO towards social media, understanding, and that's basically utilizing the keywords in the captions of your social posts and in the content or the words on your social post so that those are seen when they do their searches in social media. So we want to basically offer, if you want to discuss this further, I'm available, and my colleague Eric in Europe is available to provide you a free Gen Z readiness assessment. We'll look at your online presence of your school, and we can give you our feedback, our insights on how well you can communicate with this particular audience. And then this kind of sparks a good discussion. It's very useful. It's at no cost and no commitment to you. We'll be happy to have that conversation. So Eric's there in Europe, and I'm in North America, if that interests you. Okay, so now it's time to open the question and answer box. And I like the first one. I can relate to this. So Heath asks, what generation do the parents of the younger end of Gen Z belong to? And that is essentially Gen X. So, it's beginning to expand as you get into the younger group, but it's still going to be Gen X folks who are those parents. And I love the question, especially because Val, it's as important to write content for your prospective student. In many cases, it's really important to target the parent, right?
Of course, yes.
So you want to think in line. You've got multiple levels to your strategy, to your content strategy. What am I going to write for the student that's going to be relevant to them? And what am I going to write and kind of issues I'm going to address? Answers I'm going to provide to questions from the parents as well. Alberta Maria asks that trends are sometimes very geographical. How do you wisely plan your content strategy to fit the fast changing trends and various location dependent trends? Do you have any initial thoughts on that, Valentin?
I know it's a challenge, but the idea is to always monitor what's online, what the competitors are sharing. And if we see something that has been shared very similar from different schools, then we can try to follow and incorporate the content. But it's always last minute project, those type of content, but it's doable.
I think that's a really good point. You want to not only research, of course, what social channels they're on in that country or in this region and what social channels are hot, but what you said about, checking the competition and what are they doing, because that's a really good indicator, especially if they're a valued and worthy competitor. It's not stealing. It's just smart to understand how they're doing things well and understand what they're doing well and maybe things that you can learn. Maybe there are things they can learn from you. Another good question, is there a difference in how you market or communicate to domestic students and international students? My first take on that, and then Val, I'll let you kind of complete the thought. Overall, we're all potential or prospective students, whether they're domestic or international. So speak to them, in those ways, kind of equally across the board. But understand it. I think it just comes down to content. What do you say to domestic folks is about what questions they have that they need answered, or what are their motivations in terms of what do they want to do next after they attend your school? Those answers to those things might be different for an international student. Val, anything else to add to that answer?
Yes, I think the content has to be adapted. And for international students, the idea is to show them that you welcome international students, that you can help them uh, in the process of enrolling to your school, but also maybe go to another country. So it's really the content has to be focused on this as well. With if ever you target specific countries, you can add specific hashtags to your social media posts, for example, or you can also create very targeted blog posts as well that can be boosted also on social, targeting the country you're looking at to reach out.
Yeah. Okay. So we have time for one more. What do you have more details on how to do social media SEO? What are some kind of core things you can share there, Valentin, about achieving that social search aspect?
Yes, so social SEO, it's all about making sure you have uh, the right keywords in your captions, the right hashtags, uh, but also uh, the text that you're going to include in if ever you share a video or even a graphic. Uh, Make sure that you also have those keywords in the captions. Uh, it's about also including the location in your post. Making sure you have a SEO optimized title as well. It could be either the name of your program you offer or uh, a general name to define your program. And yeah, it's about making sure you have the keywords and the location, the music also has an important role. Yeah.
Cool. Well, listen, we've gone longer than anticipated. I know there are more questions out there. I'm grabbing those questions and I'm going to send them to Eric so he can reach out to reply to Anastasia, Janine, Freya, and Helen. So thank you very much for your engagement. We appreciate you spending this part of your afternoon with us. So thank you and have a nice afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.